You everybody for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me one quick favor, see that little black subscribe button on the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, hit that little black subscribe button. Really does help this channel grow, my audience grow, and I appreciate it more than you know. Also, quick thank you to our presenting sponsor, Betfred Sportsbook and the Betfred Sportsbook app. Bet $50 on any game. Get up to $1,111 in free bets courtesy of the Betfred Sportsbook. Thank you again. Now, here's the video that you came here for. So let me say this. It's not often that in late July, early August, this time of the year, we get marquee, major, important recruiting news when it comes to major college basketball and players that are going to enroll and play the coming season. But we got some in the recent days and in the recent moments as I'm recording kind of in real time here. But a team that, it's even backtrack, a team that we have talked about quite a bit over the last month or so, it is the Kentucky Wildcats, right? Because Kentucky played in that international tournament, the Global Jam. They represented Team USA. It was the Kentucky roster. They went 4-0. They won the thing, won a gold medal. They looked awesome. But if you watch the games, what became abundantly clear watching is that Kentucky's star freshman, Aaron Bradshaw, is out with an injury. He's a big man, about 6'10", 6'11". And then their only other true 7-footer, Ugana Onyenso, he went down with an injury at the event and did not play. We find out after that he needed surgery. And so if you watch Kentucky, he sat there and said, I really like this team, multiple guards that are probably first-round picks. They look really good. But against the bigger teams in that tournament, you could see, like, they just did not have enough really big bodies. Trey Mitchell, the 6'9" transfer from West Virginia, was phenomenal. But, you know, you get into the SEC against the Tennessees of the world, the Arkansas of the world. You obviously open against Kansas in the Champions Classic. You need more big bodies than hoping to get back two guys that just underwent surgery in the last month or so. And so I bring it up because in recent days, as I just said, Kentucky got some very interesting recruiting news as they just received a commitment. And I'm going to trip over the name, so forgive me. Zvonimir Ivisic, a 7'2" center from Croatia, has committed to the University of Kentucky. And I just got to do this. If you're watching on YouTube, I'm giving a little bit of a golf clap to John Calipari. This was a guy I was critical of in April, May. He just added a 7'2" guy out of nowhere over these last couple days to fill a hole and complete a roster that I think is excellent going into this year. Now, in terms of the player, let me say this. It's one thing to get a 7-footer this late. It's good. You need big bodies, whatever. Make no mistake. Zvonimir Ivisic, this kid can play. 7'2", but super skilled. Played in the Adriatic League overseas. Played in the one of the FIBA tournaments, averaged, I think it was like 12, 13, 14 points a game. Very skilled, 5-out center. A guy that can put the ball on the floor, a guy that can shoot threes, a guy that can protect the rim on both ends of the court. He is very much a new age center and has played excellent again in international competition. As a matter of fact, I'll take it a step further. Not just playing well in international competition. How about this? He is on the radar of NBA teams. He is a guy who has gone through the NBA draft process both in 2022 and 2023, decided to withdraw and go back overseas. But this is a guy NBA teams know about. This is an NBA level talent that Kentucky just added to its roster in a pinch in late July, early August. You cannot emphasize enough what a home run this is this late in the process, specifically at a position of need. And when I look at this kid, two things stand out. One, it is in fact a position of need. I just talked about it, is I really like this Kentucky team. And even, oh, by the way, even when I was critical, I thought some people were underselling Kentucky because of the fact that they didn't hit the portal hard and not acknowledging they had probably 3 future first-round lottery-type talents in the 2023 recruiting class. DJ Wagner, Aaron Bradshaw, who I just mentioned, is hurt. And, of course, Justin Edwards as well, who might be the best NBA prospect out of all of them. But at the same time, the one thing they were lacking post-Toronto, post this trip to the Global Jam, was a marquee low-post guy, but not the traditional low-post guy, but a 7-footer, a guy that can protect the rim, a guy that can rebound, a guy that can handle anything down low. What I really like about him, though, as it pertains to Kentucky, is the fact that he isn't a stiff. He fits in with what the other players on this roster can do. And if you watch Kentucky in their overseas trip to Toronto, I guess it's not technically overseas because they just drove across the border or flew across the border. But if you watch them in Toronto, what you saw was a team with guards that can get in the lane, with pretty much 5 guys on the floor, including Trey Mitchell, who played center on that trip, that can all hit threes. And so the one thing that you do not want to do is bring in just a 7-footer that's going to clog the lane, low post, back to the basket. That's not what you want with this particular group. So to get a player that can play 5 out, that can stretch the floor, that can do all the things that all your other guys can do, I can't emphasize this enough. I love it. By the way, from the player's perspective, from Zvonimir Ivisic's perspective, love it from his perspective as well. This is a guy that has NBA dreams and NBA aspirations. And when I look at the situation that he has been in overseas, he's been very successful. But for whatever reason, NBA teams want to see more. Well, what better place come beyond the biggest stage? As I said, game 1, you'll probably be playing against Hunter Dickinson, assuming eligibility, which we'll talk about momentarily. You're going to be on the biggest stage, big games, big moments. Everybody's going to get a chance to see you. It's like any other recruit from any other pocket of the globe, whether it's Texas, New York City, wherever. You want to prove you're an NBA player. There's no better place to do it than Kentucky. So I like it from his perspective. He said, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to prove it. And I'm going to go ahead and do what I need to do. And oh, by the way, I think he found a nice spot for him with NBA caliber guards that he is going to play with. Beyond that, what I would also say, a couple other things stand out. Now, what to expect from him going forward? A couple things are worth noting. One, I just mentioned eligibility, and I've seen conflicting things about his eligibility. I know Kentucky fans have a little bit of PTSD, from the Enes Kanter situation from a decade ago. By the way, Enes Kanter came on this podcast about 3-4 years ago and talked about that. So the bottom line is that I get any Kentucky fans saying, oh, he's not going to get eligible. I do think the NCAA, we can criticize them for a lot. It does seem as though they are much more willing to work with international players now. You don't have to be a kid that was either born in the States or played high school in the States. Gonzaga for years is at an international pipeline. Arizona the last couple of years is at an international pipeline. But that's also the thing that I think is worth noting. Assuming he gets eligible, and I don't think there should be that much concern, there probably will be an acclimation period, I remember talking to somebody close to that Arizona program here over the last probably year or so. Tommy Lloyd, they obviously bring in all sorts of international kids, and sometimes it just takes a while to get used to being in the States, to get used to playing college basketball, to get used to the different rules in college basketball versus the international game, school, all that good stuff. And so I do think it'll take time. I don't think it'll be an overnight thing, but again, a talent and a player. And I really like the fit. I really like the timing. And lastly, let me say this, and I think it goes without saying, now you don't have to rush back the 2 big guys that got hurt in the spring. Aaron Bradshaw underwent surgery in, I think it was late June, early July, something like that. He's an NBA draft prospect. You want him to play. You hope he plays, but now you don't really have to worry about getting him back for the start of the season or this or that. You can put his health first. Agana and Yenso, same thing. Foot injury. We don't know when he's going to be back. Not saying you don't want them back, but you don't have to worry in the manner in which you did over the last couple weeks. Now you got a big body, and you can know we got a true 7-footer that we're ready to go in game 1. And again, there's the acclimation period. He's got to put on some weight. I get all that. But an NBA level talent, I don't want to say fell into your lap, because this was great recruiting. This was great evaluation. This was great closing, all that good stuff. Finally, let me give Coach Cal a little credit on one other thing. I do think this is the summer, and I give him a lot of credit. I think he's taken back his program. What do I mean by that? Over the last couple of years, listen, Cal, when he got to Kentucky in the spring of 2009, he said, we're a players program. We're always going to put the players first. And it's great to put the players first. And I'm not saying you shouldn't put players first. put their health first, their safety first, their mental health first, all that good stuff. But I do think there is a time where you can maybe put the players too much ahead and give them too much leeway and give them too much freedom and give them too much of the rope, right? The proverbial rope. And I think that's happened the last few years through no fault of Coach Cal's own. But you recruit high-profile players. They have a lot of people in their ears. They're trying to get to the NBA, and what ends up happening? It's been a lot of chaos behind the scenes the last couple of years in Kentucky. The Shaedon Sharpe deal, again, top player in the class of 2022, reclassified, comes to Kentucky. Oh, I'm going to be there for next season. Ends up sneaking out the side door thanks to an adult in his life. The late Terrence Clark, you hate to be critical, but there was a weird injury that nobody could figure out for weeks on end, months on end. I'll never forget John Calipari going to the podium and said, our doctors say he's fine. I don't know what to tell you. And so why I bring that up is because the Aaron Bradshaw situation, this was Coach Cal, I think over the last 2 months or 3 months, kind of saying, no, this is my basketball program. And we want you to be part of it. And we want you to do what's best. And let me even backtrack. I don't think it's an Aaron Bradshaw thing, but I think it's the adults in his life. It's Clutch Sports, his agency, that I do think is kind of trying to manipulate. And well, he's kind of hurt and we're not going to rush him back and this and that. And we've talked about it. Like I think if Clutch had their druthers, he would never play for Kentucky. And so and by the way, I'm not saying that's right. I'm not trying to be rude, but we've seen that not work out for other players. I'm not going to name names because I don't want to be disrespectful. Now, sometimes it has, like with Shaedon Sharpe. But I just bring it up very simply to say, this to me feels like Coach Cal taking back this program, saying, Aaron, we want you. Aaron, we think you kind of need us, but we're not going to be beholden to you. We're not going to be sitting there day after day waiting. Are you ready? Are you not? Are you this? Are you that? If you're healthy to come back, we want you. But if you got a million ears and people in your ear, if you got people saying you shouldn't be playing, well, guess what? We're going to move on without you, and we got reinforcements without you. So that's not an Aaron Bradshaw disrespect. But again, when there's millions of dollars at stake for these young basketball players, there's a lot of people in their ears trying to get them to do stuff. And so what I love about this from John Calipari's perspective is that he basically took back his program and said, you know what? We're not going to be beholden to any one player. To quote John Calipari from many Midnight Madnesses ago, Big Blue Madnesses ago, we're not going to be beholden by any player. Let's ball.